Please no yelling. Hi. Everybody keep it down in the house. Hello, everybody. Hi. Waiting for Dr. Lea Lis to join us, child psychiatrist. Lea, are you there? Hi, Mary Alice. There she is. Okay. Lea, I'm going to bring you in here. Let's see. Here we go. Waiting for the shameless psychiatrist. There she is, the beauty.
Jamie, put on some makeup.
Hi, Dr. Lea. You look great. Much better than
Put on.
me.
Oh yeah.
But I have corona, so I
Look.
I'm allowed to look like this.
Yeah. Wow.
Hey, Jason. Hi,
Hello.
everybody.
Thanks for joining.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Probably should have brushed my hair. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. I'm here with my very dear friend and purist contributor, Dr. Lea Di Francisi, Dr. Lea Lis. And she is a child psychiatrist, and she has been sharing a lot of great information for me during this process of quarantine on how to handle my children. She also wrote a great piece for Purist, which you can see on our website, about how to deal with your teenager during quarantine. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna start with Lea is very impressive, Southampton child psychiatrist.
Thank you.
Dartmouth graduate. I wanted to go through a couple questions and then leave it open to some of our viewers and see if they have any questions about how to handle their kids at home. How's that?
On in answering everyone's questions too. I've been working tirelessly with my patients, and even volunteering to do the online stuff with health. So I'm really got a lot of you guys here. So thank you for having me.
Good. So yeah, a lot of your friends, a lot of our friends are joining, which is nice. So Lea, how do you talk to your kids about COVID, about this COVID crisis at home?
Great question. Answer is it depends on their ages. So 2 to 6, they're in the pre-operational state of cognitive development, which means that they can really only understand their own perspective, and they struggle to see the perspective of others. So at that age, it's really about how is this going to affect me? So you're reassuring them that their life is not going to be that affected. I like to think for that age, 2 to 6, you want to channel your inner Mr. Rogers. We all watched Mr. Rogers when we were a kid, and he was like a real expert in talking about dealing with conflict like divorce or war. And when you think about what he would say something like, do you know what a virus or a germ is? And he would answer with a very simple answer about like, this virus is going around and getting some people sick, like a very bad cold. And then he would probably sing some song around how important it is to wash your hands, and how important it is to cover your mouth when you sneeze, and how we're all going to stay at home for a while other sick. And then you would say, but people like me, your parents and doctors are keeping you safe, so you don't need to worry. So that's the right message at that age. Then you get the concrete operational, like my daughter, your daughter. They can understand abstraction, so they know that, like, that a lot of people they've seen some of the news. So for them, it's like, find out what they already know. They might be learning so much garbage from their friends, and that's either scaring them or completely wrong. So you really want to find out what they already know.
And there's so much that they're seeing online that's scaring them. I know certainly in our household, when Chris came down with corona, that our teenagers were very nervous about the death toll and the stories they were seeing online. And how do you deal with that? How do you control that a little bit?
Well, you can't control, you can, try to allow them to watch too much scary news, or, monitor their social media accounts. But, it's not always that easy because, as you're stuck in your room right now and lies with your kids. So, how are you going to
My
control
room.
So how are you going to control everything they see and hear. So it's more about engaging in a discussion about what they saw and read, which is like really important. And the other thing is, hey, reality is we can't control everything. So how do you tolerate uncertainty as a parent and a child? And I think you have to be a role model. You have to say, hey, it is scary, but I could walk outside and get hit by lightning right now too.
Mm-hmm.
And not control everything. But probability says that even if we got sick, we would be fine, And so you are more than likely to go safe. And that's what I can say. And, people are working really hard to ensure that. So that's really what you got to say, because you don't want to lie. They're not, right? So it's about probability. So I say, speak to them about probability.
You wrote a great piece for me about the teenage brain and how it develops and how there is an intense need for socialization. So during this period of isolation, can you break that down for us and how the teenage brain works and what we can do to help our teenagers get through this quarantine period?
Yeah. These teenagers, they think they're invincible because during the teenage years, the dopamine in the brain, which is the rewards, way up. So they get these huge dopamine bursts. And any parent of a teenager notices that being on their social media or the boy calls, they're like elated. It's like, so these dopamine bursts, all these reward pathways that are, being cemented down in the brain, but they don't have any wisdom of experience. So, they're driving like crazy in their car because they never had a car crash like we have, right? So all this dopamine, no wisdom, and it's a recipe for disaster. So, they're like, why can't I just see my friends? I don't understand. Why do I have to? I'm not going to get sick anyway. So, they also are developing more of a sense of moral development. They do understand risks and consequences better. So you can have a discussion about like, okay, these are all the reasons, but still they'll probably be like, I still want to go out. And if you're just like,
what do you do when they want to go out?
Yeah, no, they'll probably just do it behind your back. So I think it's about negotiation. So it's like maybe they can go for a walk with their friend on the beach 6 feet apart, or they can play endless online video games that normally you wouldn't allow, where they all talk to each other. You have to negotiate. You have to negotiate with teenagers. It's not. I always say that kids, it's a benevolent dictatorship, but teenage democracy. It's a democracy.
Is there any sense in explaining to them while they feel indestructible, there are people out there who are not, and they're doing a service to them by staying home and protecting elderly people, for example, their grandparents?
That's great for moral development. Like, you're giving them the tools to reason morally. So yes, you absolutely should have those discussions. Sometimes it has an impact and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they're too egocentric to see how they affect the world. It depends on their development.
So there's so many different types of children, and I have three, and they're all so different, from, the sort of inattentive to the more perfectionist to the anxious. How do you parent? How do you speak to them differently?
I think you have to look at what kind of child you have and tailor that. I mean, you're home, you have to homeschool them, right? So, each child has different needs. So if you have an inattentive child, you really want to look at structure. They need a very structured day. They need to wake up at the same time every day, and they need to have a schedule. And for the inattentive child, you have to work on rewards. So you say, okay, content chunk. When you finish your math, just your math, you can take a break, and there's going to be a reinforcer in. So it's like, and you probably have to do a lot more hand holding because they don't do well when they're not being sort of closely monitored by, their parent. They're not going to just sit and do all their homework like the perfectionistic child. So you're going to have to math, then you get a break. You can then spend half an hour on your video games. For the more anxious perfectionistic child, I say like, schedule worry time, which means, okay, like I know you're worried about this, I know you're worried about that, but let's just schedule worry time. We're going to worry at the end of the day. Write down all your worries. We're going to worry at the end of the day. And then you spend 20 minutes going through all their worries with them. So that really helps them relax. So it depends on which kind of child you have.
Yeah, someone was mentioning their son won't come near her without a mask on because he's still working, and I think that's very responsible. I have to say, teaching them some sense of responsibility right now, and having them grow up. My kids have sort of been forced into it because we're both sick, and that really makes a difference.
I really want to hear about that. How are they handling it? How is Bella is now the master of the house? How's it going?
So I'm in my room, our room actually, but Chris can't be near me because he has potential to get reinfected. So again, they really don't know anything about this virus yet. So it's really important just to stay, keep your distance. I do believe it is airborne. I have to say, I went through 2 boxes of gloves. I wore these KN95 masks, these Chinese ones that probably weren't that effective. I definitely got it in the air at some point going up and down stairs to deliver food and medicines to Chris. Bella has been really amazing stepping it up. Day one, she was up cleaning and sterilizing and doing laundry and made breakfast for the kids and got them up for homeschooling. And I was shocked. I had a English muffin and eggs at my door, and she basically turned into me overnight. This is a girl who, when I walk into her bedroom, sometimes I can't even see the floor. So I was very impressed with her, and she's continued to be helpful and comes out for mealtime and gets the kids downstairs, and I watch them all from a distance having meals in the kitchen together and chit-chatting and doing their obviously a lot of TikTok is involved. And I try not to control it too much. I do FaceTime bedtime with Carolina because she really is struggling with this. She kind of tries to creep into my room, and I see her sneaking in the hall, and I have to yell at her and remind her that she needs to be distanced from me right now. I have a kind of an intense sinus cold. I fortunately haven't had a fever yet, and I hope I don't get one, and I don't think I will get one because I've been really diligent about my vitamins and medicines. And I had the good fortune of doing an IV, which made the difference from one day to the next. I woke up with a super intense sinus headache on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday, I got the IV. I had a doctor come to the house, full regalia with an M3 mask, and she literally gave me all the vitamin drips that I needed. And obviously, when you're doing them intravenously, it's much more effective than ingesting a vitamin. And the pills that like I've been giving Chris and stuff, we've been doubling up on vitamins so that it can process as much of the important aspects of the vitamins as possible. So that really made a difference. Thursday, I woke up without that sinus headache. I can't believe how much better I felt in literally 24-hour period. I slept a solid 10 hours. I normally don't do that. And again, last night, went to bed a little bit late, but was feeling better. I usually feel better around this time of day through the evening. I've been, taking all my homeopathic remedies, quinine, vitamin C, zinc, silver, ionized silver, what else? B, D, and of course, um, doing, being really diligent about, warm liquids, warm soups, cooked foods, things like that. I can't taste and I can't smell, so I don't really have a great appetite. So, I've been forcing myself to kind of just eat full meals, like full lunch, full dinner.
He needs calories to feed the machine that's going to fight the infection. So even if you can't taste spaghetti bowling, you'll have to eat all those eat healthy. So, and I'm so proud of Bella. She is going to learn so much from this experience. She's going to really become the woman she's meant to be. This is going to define her and define her development. And so I know it's a bad thing, but it's also going to be a thing for her.
Yeah.
So.
And Mario's doing well too. He's been really helpful. He made me lunch today. I couldn't believe it. He made me some soup, brought it to the front of my room with his mask and gloves on, and constantly asking me how I'm doing. And going to his sister, Carolina, his younger sister, who adores him, but the feeling isn't always quite mutual. So, and checking up on her and seeing if she needs anything, and trying to be there for her when he can. Like you said to me, my son loves to comes down from those trees when someone is in need. And so he's been stepping up.
Yeah, he's a by some play with my daughter, and it's just amazing to see, that nurturing side, that, he's going to be such a great parent someday. Like, we have to flourish these different kinds of personalities. Caught up with, like, girls are nurturers and babysitter, like we have to flourish the things that are, in our children that are beautiful. And for me, he's that nurturing, athletic, he is a real modern day man. He'll be he'll be a modern day man. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about meditation a little bit, because I've been trying to do some TM just to keep my breathing up and get oxygenating my body as much as possible now more than ever because I'm sick. But it's really helpful for kids too. I have Carolina on that Calm app every night.
Yes.
It really works for her since I can't be with her. She can do it remotely. What are some things that you suggest for parents at home with their kids?
Yeah. So meditation is best, or, these kinds of things made very easy. So I like to think of it more like coping skills, and meditation is one of them, right? So for coping skills that I like, I think that square breathing, which is a very simple meditation, is really good for younger kids. Square breathing is breathing in a square. 5 seconds in, hold for 5 seconds, 5 seconds out, hold for 5 seconds. So it's a square. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. You do it 3 times. That is a very simple meditation. It's great for kids who are having like outbursts or getting angry. That really calms them down. Then I like meditation, of which there's a bunch
Muscle
of really
relaxation,
great
what's that?
progressive muscle relaxation.
Progressive muscle
Which,
relaxation.
yeah, it's a bunch of tensing and relaxing different muscle groups. Starting from the head down to the toes. My assistant Caitlin can put up a couple of scripts for that. But it's basically like, do it now, but it's basically like I say to kids, like, start by scrunching the nose on your face. Like, pretend there's a fly in your nose and you go, and then you breathe in while you do it. Shoo, fly, shoo. And then I say, pretend there's a cat that jumped on your shoulder, but you want to get it away, tense, relax, tense, relax. And then I say, there's a big elephant coming and it's about to land on your stomach. What are you going to do? And then I say, tense, relax, tense, relax. And then I go down to legs, to the feet. You're in mud puddles. We have fun doing it with the kids. And then they learn that they can do this kind of meditation like over the course of 5 minutes, or like in 2 minutes, like right before a test. They just go through a script. And it's incredibly effective because it's easy, but it is a meditation of and very effective for getting rid of stress and anxiety, because when you tense and then you relax the muscle, you feel the difference. And a lot of carrying your anxiety all through this body. So that
it's a great stress reliever for them and for the parents. But when they're kind of really grating at your nerves and you feel like you're on the brink, what do you suggest then?
I suggest that you give yourself a timeout. Which suggest what I always are at the brink. So go into a bathroom, splash your cold water, and take a deep breath. And obviously, if you have a very young kid, you can't be out of the room for too long. But if you have an older kid, I would suggest the rain meditation, which I think is the most incredible meditation. I do it all, and that integrates really intense, strong emotion. Because when you have very strong emotions and you avoid them, it ends up being like a pot. You can only stuff so much in, and then it boils, and then you explode and you scream at your kids, lose your mind, get angry with your husband, or a wife or whatever that you're in. That's not helpful. So instead, you got to process the emotions, and the rain meditation helps you do that. I could do it with you, or we could talk about the technique if you like.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So it really works best in the context of thinking of an own experience. So think about a time you had a very strong emotion. I don't know if you feel comfortable. Just even if finding out you had corona, anything. So it really helps about that. Can you think of something?
When I was what?
Can you think of a time you had a very strong emotion in the last couple of days? If you can call it to mind, it helps.
Oh yeah, the whole last week has been one big emotion,
Yes. So
especially when my kids were crying about me getting sick now.
yes, so that's perfect. So call that moment to mind. It will help with the example of the meditation. So what you want to do is you want to take a moment to recognize that a very strong emotion is present and turn towards the emotion in an open, non-judgmental way. And then decide what are the thoughts, the sensations that are there, and name them, such as I am feeling stressed, I am feeling upset, I am feeling overwhelmed. So give me an example of what you're feeling at that moment.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah. What was it like in your body? Like, how did you know you were overwhelmed? Were you tense? Was your heart racing? Did you feel,
Feel
um,
it in my shoulders.
yeah, so you
Like
felt it in your shoulder.
here and here, like intense pressure, especially the last like 2 weeks leading up to this. And, if I even think about it, it starts to like tingle, irritate
Yeah.
me.
And did you like on the brink of crying? Because, sometimes you get, you know, the welling up in your eyes or so those are the kind of things you got to tune into and wanna that's recognize for rain, right? Then the A is allow. Allow means you accept your present moment reality, and that you welcome it in. So you say, come, come emotion. I'm welcoming you in. I'm not gonna run for you any longer. And you don't have a situation. You just have to soften your mental resistance to it. Because when you push away, suppress, ignore difficult emotions, you end up creating more suffering and tension. So once you allow it in, then you can make a conscious choice rather than react. So that's allow. So then there's investigate. So now you have to mentally inquire with questions like, why do I feel the way I do? So are there any events that happened ahead of the emotion that might have influenced it? So maybe you could talk a little bit about what were the events or, you know, even, things like also your own physiological health, like the fact that you were sick or the fact that your daughter was upset, things like that. What can you speak to about that?
Hmm. I think that in my particular case, having had Lyme disease within the last year, and the fear of feeling that misery again was so stressful for me. In addition to managing the household, the homeschooling, the three kids, their own feelings and emotions about everything that's happening around them, and the radical new normal that we just thrusted them into as a society, as a whole. And of course, taking care of Chris, being the caregiver and, making sure that he's getting everything that he needs because he is completely helpless. So,
So
to
you
get,
have a bunch of things. Not only you're investigating your own thoughts,
yeah,
but you're also all the physiological factors that
yeah, it's a beast. A lot of people are commenting on Chris. He's day 22 today, so 4 days without a fever, and now he's starting to come out of his quarantine, so he can be there and help the kids around the house with different things, and that's good news. So he still feels all the pain and the challenges and the weakness of the virus, and I think I have a lot less severe case because I wouldn't be sitting here doing this if if I felt like I needed, an all day nap. But it's a good day when that happens. Hi, Naomi.
are, women are men may be stronger in actual being able to lift things and all that, but women in general are healthier and live longer because genetically, the way there's a lot of studies on this. Genetically, the way that women are programmed, we have better immune systems than men do, so we do live longer. And you're a case in point. Look how fabulous you look. So
Yes.
and I know he will get better, but he's he's not as strong as you. So that's pretty awesome that you're so strong.
So for those of you who are just joining, I'm with my friend, Dr. Lea Lis, who is a child psychiatrist, and we're talking about the effects of COVID on our children at home and how to handle them. And really, we kind of went through different things like meditation, things you can do to relieve stress for them, and what's going on in the teenage brain right now, and how to handle them. And I want to open it up to some questions that you guys are texting in. But, Lea, as a parent, is there anything I should be watching for as a red flag for more serious mental health issues? This is Mental Health Month, April is, and I'm sure that, parents who have children going through the teen years especially see a shift in mental behavior. So any red flags that we should be looking out for?
Yes, you want to teenagers very withdrawn, not reaching out to their friends, not coming down for dinner, that kinds of things. And you want to look out cutting, because cutting is a huge problem now in my practice. And especially if you've had a kid who had cut in the past, and you really want to look at the places they may cut, like they may hide it on their hips. So, you may want to just checking their asking them to show you their wrists and things if they've had cut in the past.
There's my teenage daughter.
I need you to have a better reaction for my TikTok.
In full, what is that suit? She's in a full hazmat suit.
So can you have a better reaction?
Yes, okay.
Looks like a sci-fi movie.
That's hilarious. Oh my God, look at you, Bella. That's awesome.
That's not a good reaction. I'm not asking for Oscar stuff.
I'm not scared of it. I've seen worse. Did you see my IV doctor today?
Oh, you're so cute. Okay.
Okay. So last question for you, and then I'm going to have you answer some of the questions that people are dialing in. For kids under the age of 5 who are in preschool, and the curriculum is about being social, how do you make up for the lack of socialization that they might be experiencing at home?
Well, as far as their curriculum around academics, just teach them their letters and numbers and, a few things like that. Read to them is very important. And obviously you can't make up for it. And the reality is homeschooling by us, me, you, and us unexperienced people is not going to make up for, there will be loss. However, one thing I will, the use of stories. Social stories have been used in autism for many, many years and have not really been rolled out should be. Social stories, which I asked Caitlin to put on the chat, are stories around like how to share, how to be kind, how to listen instead of talk, how to say thank you, things. And you can read them these stories about sharing at school or sharing in how do you deal with this and how do you be kind and how do you be honest and what happens if you tell a lie and how to take your turn. And it's not going to completely replace the social curriculum of preschool, but for many years people didn't go to school till they were 5 and they were just fine. So this is just like second best.
So someone in California, Joe from California, she's Dr. Lea, how much do you allow your teen to hide out in their room? How basically, like how much time should they be spending in their room?
Well, I think all bets are off the table right now. Like how to figure out, I think I would say it's a negotiation. So you want them to come down for dinner, right? And family dinners are really important. Studies show that, kids who come down for dinner are likely to use drugs and all those things. So you want them to come down and be a part of the family, but you're also asking for quarantine, which is something natural. So you can be a little more forgiving. You say,
I'm doing
okay.
a live video, Bill, I can't.
No, I just need literally 30 seconds.
I can't.
Why?
Because I'm on with Lea. She's doing a live video about you, about teenagers. So my teenager wants me to have a reaction to her hazmat outfit. So let's do it on the live. Okay. Oh my God.
You're a terrible actress.
I'm a terrible actress. She makes me redo TikTok videos like 4 and 5 times till I get it right.
Yeah, but it's
Good Lord. So just to echo what you said with my teenager, the first few weeks, she didn't want to come out of her room. She was getting fairly depressed about the prospect of being home and not being able to see her friends for the months to come. And, uh, I would go in there and I just kept going in there and eventually she would open up about it and, whether there are like tears involved or not, just talking and communicating with your teenager is really important. One thing you wrote about is, trying to keep them at home and making them understand how important that is right now. So giving them concessions at home in order to keep them home is really important. So I would let her stay there. I would let her not help me with chores because the trade-off was that she was staying put at home and not sneaking out to go see friends. I know a lot of friends who have had their children, they found out they were sneaking out, going out to see friends. They were not adhering to sort of these guidelines, at night and not social distancing. So I thought it was really important to kind of give her that freedom. And then over time, she's been, sort of coming out of her shell and engaging with her siblings and, really stepping up when I got sick. And that was really important to me this time because I can't be there to do all those things for her. So I think it's just really communicating with your kids as often as you possibly can. I grew up having dinner with my parents every night. My dad's German, my mom's Brazilian. We'd sit down at the dinner table. My mom cooked every night. We would talk about the day. We'd talk about school, good or bad. And that shared moment was so meaningful. And just to be able to have that with my kids all the time, except now that I'm in quarantine, has been really monumental. And it's not for them because, you got to, call out to them, 10 times before they appear, and confiscate devices, everything, just to get them out of their rooms. But once you have that moment, it's really nice. And then when Chris was in quarantine, we would FaceTime with him downstairs so he could have his dinner that I prepared and they could have their dinner and we would sit there and just talk about, nothing special, but we were all together. So I think you're right to echo that family time is really important.
And you got to think about what the grief and loss they're experiencing. They're losing their graduations, they're losing their proms, they're losing, their times with their friends, so many things. And like they have to grieve those losses and you have to be there and allow them to grieve. And so, don't try to make it okay and say, oh, well, whatever, it's just a prom. Like, no, this is a big deal. Like, let them cry. Like, don't discount. Like, yeah, people are dying, but they're also missing their prom. And it doesn't make their story less painful than, in their own world. So just sit there with them and allow them to grieve, allow them to cry, and just say, yeah, you're not going to get it back. And it does stink. And I can't make it better for you. And that, we can do our, best to make it the best we can. But, it's okay, cry. Let's cry, And I think just being present for that discussion is really important. So.
So someone asked me if I falo português. Sim, eu falo português. I do speak Portuguese. Let's
Yes.
see. I'm looking for the questions. A lot of really nice comments, very important time. We do the same in our house. Yes, let them cry. Do not teach them to suppress their emotions. Don't minimize their grief. It sucks. I feel for these kids this year. Yeah, I mean, it's all about the kids right now, right? My son has been diagnosed with a severe anxiety disorder before Corona. He's really struggling now. Keeping a 17-year-old skateboarding son inside has been strenuous. Why would Chris possibly get reinfected? Thought one becomes immune. No, until he has that antibody test, he doesn't know. And there are two types of tests. One tests like sort of the low-level immunities, and then one tests the antibodies that you want, which are like chickenpox. You won't get it for 10 years, or they don't even know because they don't really know anything yet. So when we get that antibody test, then he'll know if he has it. So that's why there's a possibility of reinfection, and I'm feeling much better, thank you. I'm definitely on the mend, no fever. I have I have a sinus, like a sinus cold, like not an infection though. So the vitamin IVs, they're really hard to come by. If you have a general practitioner, you should reach out to them and ask them about that. We posted in our last Purist newsletter about an IV doctor that comes to your house in Long Island or New York City. She comes with the full M3 mask and the whole hazmat outfit. And that vitamin drip really helped me. They're doing that in the hospitals. They're running out of those vitamin drips in the hospital, but they are really helping patients in the hospitals. So if you have access to that, that's a good idea. I did them a lot during my Lyme disease, and it really helped. I put my supplement regimen online. You know, high dosages of homeopathic remedies and vitamins at this time are really important. Zinc, vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin D, vitamin C, a lot of vitamin C. Some people were asking me about colloidal silver. I think that definitely helps. And also lots and lots of sleep. I got sick because I feel like I was not sleeping well at all.
I think your story is amazing in that all you've done, you know, for the world by publishing your routine, because I learned so much and started doing a lot of things you're recommending as well. So that's great that you put it all out there for all of us. And that Chris is.
Someone mentioned that their daughter is so angry at the Chinese, which is really interesting. There's a lot of stuff online that is going to freak our kids out. And, you know, it's hard not to watch the news. It's hard not to hear, you know, the president with racial slurring. And it's really important right now to teach our kids more than ever to be mindful of everyone. Everyone's the same. No one is this virus it does not discriminate. Okay, whether it started here, there, or anywhere, it doesn't matter. It's going to affect anyone and everyone. So it's really important to teach them compassion and show them kind of a better path away from placing blame. That's really key here. Of course, I want to blame Chris for my sickness, but but I can't. You know, it's everywhere, and everyone's going to get it at some point or another. What do you think about all that?
Well, there's like also a lot of people blaming immigration, and you know, if we didn't have so much immigration, you know, it wouldn't have come into the country. And it's kind of like this is a virus that doesn't really understand boundaries. But I think there is another lesson here too, which is like, why did this virus start to begin with? And I think it's because we encroached on animals. You know,
Mm-hmm.
ever have, in the sense that, like, you know, we should not have these exotic animals in cages. This is how it mutated so quickly, jumped from, you know, humans, from the, you know, bats and wombats or whatever else. And it also speaks to how we have to like close down these animal markets, and we have to take much better care of our planet, and we have to respect our planet so our planet will respect us. I don't think it's about race. It's just about, you know, and how we plan respect the earth, and it will much more mother revenge for how we've been treating these animals. So something we should think about.
So, Leah, how do I help my son who is 13 and has anxiety to leave the house and just go for a drive and help him know he won't get it if he leaves the house? How would you answer that to Nina?
Nina, Nina, I think the best thing to do with your son is to do a kind of exposure therapy. So you can't just like throw him in the car and drive him around, you know, the planet on the first try. You know, I think you just start by just like having him go like into the car. You do some deep breathing exercises in the car. You talk about how the car is safe. Go back in and, you know, have some ice cream. And then the next time you do like a drive around the block. The next time, you know, so it's like graduated exposure, and that way that your son will see, like, every time he comes back, he's fine, nobody's sick, you know. Eventually he'll realize it's a safe place. So that's how I would recommend do like an exposure.
That's great. Another question. Someone asked, my daughter is 17. She has COVID. She's in her room. She doesn't want to come out much. Well, I think that's good. She needs to be in isolation, first of all. And you just have to keep making sure she takes the good things that you're giving her, the warm foods, the soups, the medicine, whatever you have decided to institute at home. What do you think, Leah?
Yeah, I think, she needs to sleep, eat, and relax right now. So, her being in fine. I would recommend also looking at, those breathing exercises, because I do think we're going to find out a lot more about scar tissue in the lungs and how when you have COVID scarring. So really getting those lungs to doing those exercises are important as well.
Good, I like that. So liposomal vitamin C, did I use that? I did not use that, and I have that. I did powdered C, and I mixed it in water. Water helps it ingest, or rather infiltrate your bloodstream more readily, more easily than it is to take like a pill. Uh, and I got a lot of questions about the vitamin IVs. I do agree that doctors should be using them more, but that's the problem. In medical school, they don't teach them, about any of these natural remedies. I mean, sometimes you just have to let nature help you. What are your thoughts about an overreactive immune system, Leah? Someone asked.
Well, overreactive. Well, that's a broad question because I don't know in what context they mean. But in the case of COVID, an overactive immune system could be good in the beginning and bad in the end because of the cytokine storm. But in general, having a immune system that's overreacted may lead to like rheumatoid arthritis and lupus and other kind of immune system gone haywire. So it's more of a general medical question. But I wanted to speak a little, if you wouldn't mind, about homeopathy for kids for mental health issues, because I use a lot of it.
Yeah, please share.
In my practice, and I think people might be interested. For the ADHD child, I really like very high doses of fish oil. It has to be fish. I know it might not like it if you're vegan, but in particular anchovies, because the studies have been done on those. And it's 1,000 milligrams a day. Nordic Naturals can really help with that ADHD child. It really helps a lot. The other thing I love is 5-MTHFR, which is a form of folic acid. They say like 30% of people have a genetic difference that they cannot digest the folic acid in their food, and this supplement really helps with anxiety and depression and actually is incredibly effective. And I like Thorne, THORNE, 5-MTHFR. For little kids, even you can break it up and put it in their food. And for kids who can't sleep, they have occasional insomnia, or like ADHD kids, sometimes I'll use melatonin, L-theanine, and that will help. There's occasional rest. Like my daughter, for some reason, is very affected by the full moon. I think she's a little werewolf. And so whenever there's a full moon, she'll be like, Bonnie, it's light out. We should be dancing. Like, melatonin.
That's so cute. Cassia or?
Yeah, Cassie's my
Yeah, so cute. A lot of questions about Chris. So how did he get it? Does he know? No, doesn't know. He was going back and forth into the city to work every day, to the studio, and just came back with it one day.
Got it as well, probably the same week as him, which is Chris's director. So I think it was that week.
Did you eat any animal? Wow. Actually, I am a vegetarian, so I don't eat animal. But how are your children doing without their dad at the moment? Well, the good news is dad's out of quarantine, and they are re-engaging with him slowly. He's starting to delegate chores, make sure that the dogs get fed, the dog water bowl is full, things like that. Dishes are going to be a bit of a disaster when I emerge out of quarantine. I'm sure there will be a stacked sink in the kitchen, but we bought lots of paper plates, paper cups, and plastic forks and knives. So I'm making everybody use those while I'm here. I will feel like I will never feel safe. I'm so afraid of this virus. Will I ever feel safe? That's for you, Leah. Dr. Lea.
The answer to that is, this is not the first time in your life you've had to face uncertainty, right? Think back of all the times you've had uncertainty in your life and draw experiences. But life has never certain. As I said, you could walk outside and get hit by a car. So you have to learn how to tolerate uncertainty. The rain meditation is a good one for that, which, you know, Caitlin can post. But also just realize that, you know, live life every day, you know, as if, you know, you have that many left, because you have to cherish the time you have now. And if you spend too much time living in the past or in the future, you're not going to now. So be here now, you know, and learn how to tolerate uncertainty. So that's the best advice I can give you.
And exposure therapy. Somebody was asking about that.
Exposure therapy is what we use for OCD, anxiety disorders, and it's about when you have a fear of something like snakes, anything from snakes to, you know, in OCD, a fear of germs. You take on little bits of the anxiety. So, for example, the car example I gave you earlier, for kids who are afraid to be upstairs, them spend like 5 minutes on the second stair, 5 minutes on the third stair, 5 fourth stair upstairs, you know, every day. Give them, you know, have the parents have toy boxes. They can pick little toys and stickers and M&Ms, you know, in order to be motivated and excited about doing the exposure tasks. For OCD kids, compulsive disorder, I have them touch toilet seats and, you know, touch, touch, other germy things, so they realize that nothing happened. Unfortunately, they feel a bit vindicated right now.
You actually have them help you clean the toilet or just touch the toilet?
Yeah. Like, you know, I start with like touching the floor or touching anything they feel is germy, something that looks dirty. I bring schmutz into my office, things that look a little bit dirty, and I'll mix it full of like weird stuff and mustard and make them touch it. And then I'll move all the way to like things that like door handles or toilet seats. And I say, listen, you touched it and you're fine. You know, nothing bad. You know, you don't need to like get so upset whenever you touch it. Although COVID has not really helped that OCD kids, because now, of course, we say 1,000 times a day. But these are for the cases where people excoriate their hands and their hands were like blood. They were washing 8,000 times a day. But, you know, there's exposure tasks for everything. If you fear snakes, you would watch videos of snakes, and then you would all the way up to actually touching a snake.
So questions about teenagers. So one mother is dealing with her 17-year-old son wanting to see his girlfriend. What does she do? And then another mother has a 15-year-old daughter whose daughter is having a hard time expressing her emotions. So what's the best approach there?
When you have a teenager who's clammed up who won't talk to you, I think the best way is to actually get into their head a little by looking at their like social media, looking at like things in their lives, and like asking questions about other kids. Mm-hmm. Like, her friend Susie handling blah blah blah, and how's Johnny, you know, oh, I see your friend Johnny posted this on Instagram, like what do you think? And through like gaining an understanding of their world, you can often then say, oh, okay, that's what Johnny's doing, like what would you do? Would you do the same thing? Would you do different? Would you do it differently? And that's the best way to get into their heads, because they might feel much more comfortable talking about a friend than talking about themselves, and then put it back to themselves, and they might be less guarded. So that's one thing. The second thing I'd recommend is like get on their level, like learn to play their video games, like play with them in dual player mode. And like, you know, it might seem trivial or silly, but they love it. So go in there and like, especially with boys, they're not gonna like, hey mom, let's talk, you know. But if you start playing their video games and you start like engaging in their world, they're probably going to say a lot more to you under those circumstances. So don't be afraid to like get down and play with them, whatever it is that they love. Love.
What about the son wanting to see his girlfriend?
I'm sorry, I missed that. He just wants to see his girlfriend, and well, that's personal.
Putting stress on the parents.
That's a very personal choice. Has their family been quarantining? What are the rules in the state that you're living in? You know, in terms of can you, you know, is it like a strict stay-at-home state, or and you know that the other family has been quarantining, and can you safely have your child go over there if it's just one person? I know a lot of the parents I'm working with are letting their kids go, hang out with their boyfriend or girlfriend, just that one person, and they've talked to the other parents, and parents are, and I'm not going to say that that's wrong or right. I don't know where people are living or how they feel about it, but it's, again, it's a negotiation. There's no, if you just say no, absolutely no way, can you see, maybe you can do social like 6 feet away or 10 feet away, they can go on walks together. It depends on the circumstance and how at risk your family is too. Like if you have an old grandma in the house who's 92, you got to be like so careful. It's very circumstantial. Depends on the circumstance.
So there's a lot of fear-based questions about the virus, and for parents and their kids getting this virus. So I have the virus. I got it at some point during this caregiving phase of my husband, Chris, who is on day 22 today. So around day 18, I woke up with a kind of a severe sinus infection, and that's all I thought it was, because I was pretty run down. Mostly from the radical changes going on from my business shifting its focus. I have a wellness company that I started 3 years ago, and all we do is write about this kind of stuff and give advice on wellness and health. So for me, this is normal course of interest. It's always been my obsession is health. And for my kids, they weren't as fearful until their father got sick about what would happen to him. But I was afraid if I got sick and the kids got sick, and what would happen. Like there's a very small percentage of people in my age group who have died. And this is like a flu. This is like a cold. It varies for different people. Chris had a more severe case because he just did. He has immune system that has been compromised by years of having other illnesses. And mine was compromised by having Lyme. So I was very fearful of feeling that awful, intense pain again. But this is nothing compared to that. This had COVID last summer, anytime. And I think that it varies for different people. There are different strains out there. I have a lot of friends, once I got it, who reached out to me. I had no idea. They thought they had it, sharing their stories. I think a lot of people feel shame, or they just don't want to tell other people because they might have exposed themselves to them by mistake at some point. But I'm hearing from a lot of people who think they've had it. And I just say, you probably did. And you know what? You're over it now. So just keep adhering to the guidelines. I'm going to wear gloves everywhere I go for a long time. I'm going to be careful. I'm a germaphobe to begin with. And I realize now that I have it, that my fear was overcalculated. My fear was greater than it needed to be. So now that I feel that way, I'm sharing that because it is really important not to be so scared of this virus. It's, it will come in different waves to different family members. The important thing is to be responsible and make sure that your elder family members don't get it.
Yeah.
That's really key.
Away from your, I'm not seeing my mother for a very long time. That I miss her, but she's 77, and I because my work, a lot of things tell her, but there are some that I have to. There are some injections I have to give. So even though I'll wear my mask, I am going to place my loved ones at some amount of risk, and that's okay because we're relatively healthy. But I would never go near my mother right now, and you've got to really think about community and the risks that you're willing to take and the risks that it makes no sense to take. So there are, always weighing the risks of things. So.
And what are you doing for vitamins, a vitamin regimen for your kids right now, Lea?
Okay, so I have them take zinc and elderberry syrup, because there's a lot of good data on elderberry syrup, and there's some great gummy elderberry and zinc products. I have Ester C, which I just put into their smoothies. I break open the capsules and put it into their smoothies, and they like it. And I have them taking the 5-MTHFR, which because my daughter can get a little anxious sometimes, so I have her take that as well, and just for their mental health. And they've always been taking beta omegas because I think it makes you smarter, not only when you're in utero but post utero.
Now more than ever, it's important to implement a vitamin regimen in your life and maintain it, because we need the boost. Our immune system needs the boost. We're constantly getting compromised by different things, whether it's a cold or a fever or what have you. But just everyone should sort of try to stay on that path and think about that first thing in the morning. Get up, do your meditation, do your physical fitness stuff, get your vitamins going, share them with your kids.
Probiotics for kids who have anxious stomachs are amazing. If your kid is one of those kids who get that nervous stomach, anxious stomach, they go to school, they don't feel well, they're constantly calling the nurse, they want to go home. Probiotics are incredible for that. Like, the best brand you can find. I like PBR, which is like PB8, sorry, but there's lots of great brands. Christina, you could speak to that even. And I put it in their smoothies and their foods, and they eat it. And God, it help diarrhea, all that stuff.
So Maria had a question for you. I'm a teacher, tested positive for COVID. I have two daughters, 5 and 10 years old. The 5-year-old is very emotional. She can't be next to me and cries a lot. The 10-year-old who locks herself in her room. I am still teaching remotely. Help.
Wow. What's her name?
Maria.
Maria. Wow, you're a superhero. First of all, let's start with you're a superhero.
Go
wow.
Mom, Maria.
Yeah. I mean, you're a super mom and a superhero, so let's give a little clap to Maria. So, Maria, I don't know if you can take like sick leave from work, but maybe you need to take that one off your plate. I know it's virtual, but it's still being a teacher, and I know the teachers are putting in a lot of work right now. So I'm sure taking some sick time and having someone else cover your class is appropriate. So I would definitely recommend doing that. If you want, I'll call your superintendent and put in a good word. And because you got to focus on your health and the health of your two girls as your number one priority, and everyone would understand that. So that's my first suggestion. And my second suggestion, it's probably not the best idea to get too close. They probably already got it, but you don't want to give it to them. So of course it might be impossible if there's no other caregivers in your home. So if that's the case, then I would recommend that you just, put on your bootstrap as best you can, like cook, show them that you love them, for them, be there for them. And eventually they'll realize that they have nothing to fear. I mean, chances are they had exposure and they just didn't have any symptoms, so they'll be just fine. But my best piece of advice for you is to call in those reinforcements. It sounds like you need them right now.
Yeah. Someone said, I've heard elderberry is not recommended for COVID-19 due to the cytokine storm that might occur. Have you heard this as well?
I haven't heard it. I know that I've always used elderberry syrup whenever my kids have viruses of the throat, and that elderberry syrup is very good for preventing virus infections. But I had not heard the opposite. I think up until the time you get the infection, I can't imagine it could hurt.
I agree. I feel nauseated when I take magnesium and zinc, which really helps you sleep. Magnesium. Any suggestions? Lie still for 5 to 10 minutes. But generally I like to eat before I take a pill like that, so it doesn't make me feel nauseous. Eat something, have something in your stomach.
Zinc makes me lose my sense of taste, temporarily. So I actually don't like to take it before a meal because then I can't taste the meal. So I eat it after.
Zinc with food, someone said. So I put my whole regimen on my website, thepuristonline.com. I put Chris's regimen on there. I haven't posted my own yet because I am still in week 1 and just coming out of this haze. We have a minute remaining on this line. So that it's available. If you want, you can instant message Dr. Lea Lis, who is here today sharing her wisdom Leah,
Yep.
what is your Instagram handle?
At Shameless Psychiatrist, and also sign up